Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So this week we have a chicken. Now we have this New Holland telehandler headstock that needs altering. For those of you that are not familiar with telehandlers, I've just put this picture in now to show you what type of machine it's off and which part of it is. So the bit in the red circle is where the headstock goes, and it picks up your attachment that goes on the front. And each manufacturer has a different type of bracket that they use to pick up their implements with. So this is like the farmer's version of pallet banding. Just use a bit of baler band, tie it on with. So this needs converting from Manitou bracket, not Manitou, from New Holland brackets like it's on now, on to Manitou. So rather than buying a separate Manitou headstock, which I'm not sure would fit, there isn't many New Holland telehandlers about, so he wants this one converting onto Manitou brackets, which is very similar to this, just Manitou the other way around. Manitou have the hook, that's a hook there rather than that bit of tube, and then it's very similar at the bottom. I think that spacing between there is the same or very similar, but the only issue with this is wider, so this is nearly an inch wider than what a Manitou is. What I was thinking of doing is chopping that tube out and making that into the hook, but then I'd have to take some off the side, which I could do with it on the milling machine. I could mill some off the side there to make it, well, it needs 10.5 mil either side to make it the right width. But the problem with doing that is there isn't really enough metal left round the front of there for the hook. It's not really going to be strong enough. So I think the best option is to chop these plates off, make some new ones, and then weld them back on again. So that is a Manitou headstock, and that is how it's supposed to be. The hook is there, but you can see how beefy that bit is compared to what it'd be if I chopped off the tube out of this other headstock. So what I'll do first, I'll take it off the pallet, and then I'll gouge these welds away and take one end plate off first, and then I'll draw up my new end plate, get all my measurements, draw that up, cut 2 of them out, and then once I've got the 2 new ones made, then I'll cut this other one off. So I want to keep the geometry the same if I can, like from here to there. So if I cut one off first, then I've still got the other one to go off. So I should be able to get in there all the way around with the RK gouger. So I'm going to use 8mm rods, and then I have the welder set nearly flat out, so it's 400 amp welder, so we're nearly using 400 amps. I do have an 800 amp welder that I bought specifically for RK gouging, but I don't have any way of powering it at the moment. I need to get a generator. But most of the stuff I do, 400 amps is enough. that's that first side off. It's pretty thick tube for not a lot of weld. Doesn't look like there's been any weld prep on it. There's been no bevel or anything. It's just been one run of weld around both. But anyway, it's obviously enough. I won't clean that up yet. I'll wait until I've got the other one off and then I'll clean them up both at the same time. So when I draw the new one, I'll make that quite a lot beefier around there. And then it'll have to be slightly bigger as well. There's usually always a couple of mil tolerance on there. So I've just been out to a local farm who has a Manitou, and I've just taken some measurements off his headstock, and I've also drew around the side profile of his headstock. So I just took this bit of card with me. So that was putted up again, the stop there, and then I've just drawn around it, and that is what that needs to look like. I did offer that up onto the headstock, sat that into that hook, and the pin did line up, so it is the same same measurements, just opposite way around. The pin was in the same place, the distance from there to there is the same, and also the distance from there to there is the same, so I can copy that exactly, just make it have a hook instead. Right, I've got that drawn, that should be right, but I think I'll cut it out first, just out of some 3mm, just to make sure it is right before I cut the two that I need out of 20mm plate, and then I can offer it up to that and make sure it's right, and then if it is, we know we're alright then. I have plenty of offcuts of 3mm, so I might as well cut it out with 3mm, and it just saves me a lot of hassle if it is wrong, which it shouldn't be, but you never know. And there's a perfect offcut you can use. Right, we should be good to go at that. She's all set up, ready to go. When I lay that onto there, then that is into there, and that is bang on where that needs to be. But then when you compare it to this one, I can get away with making that a bit shorter and a bit tighter around there. Yeah, so I'll just alter that a little bit, and then other than that, I'm good to go. And there's plenty of metal, there's more metal down the back of there is in the old one for that to weld to, so that's all right. Right, that's me. I've just altered this one a bit, so I've just trimmed that corner off just to make it look a bit nicer. I've added a bit more on at the bottom because this one has a bit more on the bottom. Not that it really matters, just thought I'd try and make it similar as I could. And then I've laid the new one over the old one. It's not quite lined up properly, but you sort of get the idea how much less it is there, which is sort of how it needed to be on there. What I could have done, I could have taken a picture of this and used that, but when you use a pen to draw around something, it's always a bit slightly bigger because you're running around the edge. It's like the thickness of the pen bigger, and it's not fantastic. So that's why I've drawn it out from scratch rather than take a photo of that. I just need to bring some 20mm plate around now to cut 2 of them out. What I'm going to do with that hole is I'm going to pierce it, centre mark it rather than plasma it out with the plasma. I would rather drill a hole, and then I know I've got a perfect hole rather than a plasma cut hole, which sometimes, especially on 20mm thick, when you're only cutting, well, it'll be a 35mm hole, you get a bit of taper on them sometimes, and if the hole's not perfect and then you do try and drill them out, like the edge is real hard and it just knackers your drill, so I'd rather drill it through, and then I know that it's going to be spot on then. I don't think I've ever showed you this before, but I've got it set up to pierce the holes first. There's a tool here that you can alter the operation. It does stuff, so it'll do 1, 2, and it'll go to 3, cut that out, and 4, cut that out. But when I pierce the hole centres, I always turn the power down a bit. So I have it pierce the holes first on low power, and then when it's going from there to there, I'll stop it, turn the power back up, and then it cuts them out at full power. But there's a setting there you can alter. It does, if you click part, then it will do each part. If each part has other parts that need cutting out, it'll do all that first and then move on to the next. Or you can set the route. And there's another little tool here you click on, and if you click play, it gives you a demonstration of what it's going to do first. So you can see it's centre mark both of them and then cut them both out, which is pretty handy sometimes. If you're cutting stuff out, especially letters and stuff like that, sometimes if your pierce mark is not in the right place or something not quite right that need to alter, you realise first on this before you actually come to cutting it out in real life, which is pretty handy. I'll turn the power down to about 45 amps to centre mark the holes, and then I'll turn it back up to 85 when it's cutting out the bracket. Right, I've got them cut out. I did have a bit of problem with one of them on that corner. It started, where did it start? Anyway, where it started, when it got to the corner, it wasn't blowing all the way through. But my compressor can keep up with it as long as you start cutting when the compressor is running and almost full. If you start cutting when the compressor is filled up, by the time it drops down and then comes back on to start filling up again, the pressure is too low and it doesn't blow all the way through. On thinner stuff it's fine, but like 20 mil, you need the compressor nearly full to the brim before you start cutting. It's done a tidy job cutting them out. I've just got that one laid on top of there. It is a slight bit different, but the main thing is the gap in between there, which is about 90 mil, so that's about where it needs to be. So they'll do the job. Yeah, I think I'll tack that one onto there now, and then I'll drill them both through at the same time. that's them drilled through. So I just want to cut out some plates now. While I'm still on my 20mm, I'll cut 2 of them out. I also need this bit cutting out, so it's 80mm wide by 205mm long with a 35mm hole in it. And someone asked last week if I could give a little demonstration on Onshape. So Onshape is what I use to draw all of my DXF files. So I draw it in Onshape and then export it to the Catava software. Just find it easier. So first job, I want a 35mm hole, 35, and then I want that to be 80mm because that's the width of the plate. That's that, and then I want it to be 205mm long. So if I draw a line down there and then use that tool is for measuring. So we'll click on there, click on there, and that to be 205. And then I just want to fill that in from there to there, there to there. Get rid of them lines, get rid of that, and that's that done. And you don't have to do this extrude, but I always like to do, and then it just gives you a better idea. So that'll be 15mm. And that is that. Easy as that. You right click on it, export DXF, save it as Manitou, just call it side plate. I want 2 of them, and just export it. And then in my Catava software, just go in there, start a new one, go onto cam, DXF, browse, click on that one, open, click the green tick, and then there it is. Them 2 there are ready to cut out. I've got this little bit of plate, 15mm plate. This was, well, it's a base plate for a head bracket for a little digger, but I never used it for some reason, I can't remember why. But it's big enough to get them 2 cut out of, so I use that. I've cut them out as well, that'll get welded onto there, just to double up that. That's how the proper Manitou headstocks are. So I have to grind around there as well, but on the opposite side to what these bits are. I've just set them up and welded them on the right distance from there, and I've done that parallel with that front. So that's because when this bit goes over, I won't be able to get to it, so I welded that on. So when that's on there, I won't be able to get in there, so then I welded that on as well. To line these up, I've just found this bit of pin that's sort of the right size, because I need to get that square with that. So I'm thinking if I clamp that onto the side of my bench with a block on there, then I know that that is dead square with a bench that way, and with a block it'll be dead square in both directions. Sit that over the top of it, clamp that down, and then put that over the top, and then use that to get it in the right place. That's worked really well as that for lining them up. So I know that that has to be square, and yeah, that is bang on. So I can weld all that on now and then turn it over and weld them on at the same time. I just thought I'd check this on this bracket, but I might have made a bit of a balls up here. When you offer this up to here, it doesn't line up properly because that bit of plate there is in the way. So I should have had that welded on at more of an angle. So I've just got it put on this side, and then I've marked up there, that's where the stop should be compared to where it is. At least with it only been welding down one side, it's only one weld to remove. So I just need to tack that one back on that one to match that, and then should be right. Bit of a setback, but at least I found it and not the customer. There'd be nothing worse than sending something out to a customer and then they ring up and say it doesn't fit or it's not right or whatever. So I'm glad I found that issue now. Right, back to where we were now. So I've got them welded on at the right angle. I've got them bits tacked back on. So there's bits tack on the other side and then that to weld on. So get that done now. I have both of these welded up now. A bit welded on there. So then the other one, I've just got it set up on here. This is sort of, I want the new side, this side, to be a similar place to that side. So a bit of 50mm bright round fits in there nice and tight. And I've got this old bit of shaft that fits in there. And then I've got my new side on there. And then this just needs evening out, so it's even gap at either side, and then that should get that pretty much the same place as that one was. It doesn't matter within a couple of millimeters. Just needs all that cleaning up yet. I'm just sort of working out how I was going to get in the right place. Then if I tack this side on and then remove that side, clean that up, and then get the other one set up the same as this one. It'd been handy to have a set of Manitou brackets to use to set it up with, but that set out in the yard is a bit bent, so I didn't want to rely too much on them to get this set up. I think I'm somewhere near with this one now. So what I did first is I put that bar through there, and then I sighted it up from here onto that bar. So if you can't, I don't know if you can see because the other bar's in now, but you could tell before that was in, you could see that that bar was level, was parallel with the actual tube of the frame and the headstock. So I've got, that's where I want it to be at the bottom, and then I've done the same at the top, just sat that round bar in there, and then that is, looks nearly true with that bottom bar. It wants to go up maybe a little bit. What I can do as well is I can put a straight edge on there, straight edge across there, and then sight it that way as well, and make sure everything looks parallel with each other. Width wise, we're bang on what we need. It's just 725. Make sure I bang on 725 there. So I'll do a few more checks. So maybe just check that this distance in here is the same at both sides, and then we'll tack this one on. That side is tacked on now, and which I think we shouldn't be far off. The sides are square with that pin. Everything looks to match up parallel with everything else. That measures the same across there. Then when you look down the side, that looks parallel with that far side. So yeah, we'll make that do. We'll weld that round now. Tip it on its end, I think, weld round it, turn it over, tip it on this end, and then weld round that end. It does need a bit of a stub welding on there for the locking pin. It's not a hydraulic locking pin, it's just a push through pin like this. Just wants one of them welding on. Then I also might just press a little V out, a little bit of angle iron or something to weld all the way across there, because otherwise when you try and put the pin in, it goes through here, and then you have a right job trying to get it lined up at this side. So if it has a bit of channel or a bit of angle iron for the pin to sit in and slide across through to that side, it just makes it easier. So I might do that as well. For this bit that I was going to weld in between here, decided I'm going to do it out of a bit of box section, but I'm going to cut it in half, or not quite in half, just a bit shallower than half, and make a bit of a channel out of it. So that's that welded round as well. I didn't realise when I was welding it up, my camera was slowly moving out of shot, so you missed half of that. But I've done 3 runs of weld round there. I just thought one didn't look like it was enough, and plus where I'd gouged it out, it had sort of chamfered some of it, so one weld wasn't quite enough to fill the chamfer, so yeah, done only 3. So that's the bottom weld, and that's the top weld. It's a bit tricky reaching in there. I've got all the way in though. This slightly offset, that is distance there is smaller than it is on there, so it was a bit harder to get into that one. What I did notice as well is I seem to have more room in between there than I did on there, from this side when I was welding it up, and it seems closer in there than it does on there. So I've got this, and that fits in there with room to spare, but at the top it doesn't fit in at all. So them bits of tube must not be parallel. And when I squared it all up, I maybe should have put a pin through there and squared it up off there, but it's not a huge amount. A machine like this, I don't think you won't really notice any difference. So I've sort of squared it off the bottom tube. But yeah, I don't really think it's anything to worry about. Just noticed it. And then that bit of box that I cut in half, I'll weld that in there now. And then I've also chopped off that stub off the old one, and that's to weld on the top there. Ow, that was hot. So I'll lower it down and weld that on. So that is all finished now then. Everything is welded up. I've been around it all and sort of de-splattered it a bit, best I can. And then them's the bits I've chopped off, or gouged off. Got that stub welded on there, and then that bit of box, which wants a bit cleaning up, maybe a bit more yet. Then the pin, you put your pin through there and that should keep it in line to line up with that one. I might just try them Manitou brackets I have in the yard in and make sure it's alright first, just in case it needs a little bit grinding out of there or anything. It should be right. I don't want to do that now though, because it's dark outside and the weather is absolutely horrible. I'm just waiting to hear back from the customer whether he wants it painting or not. I'm hoping he doesn't want it painting, because you know how much I don't like painting stuff. But yeah, that is converted his New Holland headstock into a Manitou headstock. At the end of last week's video, I showed you my Motion robotic lawnmower. There is a sale on them. The sale has started on Friday, the 14th of November, is it Friday? So if you want one, the link is in the description below. You get quite a big discount on them with it being the Black Friday sales. So the lawnmower's just on its way home. It's been cutting that lawn today. It's a bit muddy for it. Nearly ready to put it away for the winter. So this is it driving back to its charging station. But yeah, that is all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.